Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Mountaineer Locker Room. Then and now, I'm Greg Chris, along with Frank Fear. Welcome into the show, everybody. And Frank, as always, good to see you. And a lot going on in the Mountaineer world to talk about tonight.
Absolutely. Hey, we missed you last week, but why don't you say a few words about what you were doing, because it also gives a plug for your son. And also, I'll tell you what, for the folks out there that might wager a bit on the big dance, I think we're going to see Winthrop in the March Madness.
Good possibility if they can keep doing what they're doing. Last Wednesday, wife and I and some family members made a trip down to Radford. Winthrop played at Radford, and so it was close by, only a couple hour drive. So we drove down to the game, and man, what a game! Winthrop led most of the game, and even up by as many as 10 in the second half. And as they usually do this, and even my son told me, he said, "Dad," he said, "these guys are so good that a 10-point lead is like a 2-point lead." He said, 10-point lead is nothing. And because I always get all work, I always get that big lead, and but he said, that's not like that. He said, they're just so good. Anyway, come down to it, Winthrop got the ball with 10 seconds, scored a bucket with 2 seconds to go, and won the game 80-78. So very entertaining game. And then that was their 9th win in a row. They won their 10th in a row on Saturday. They beat Longwood. Mm-hmm. Beat them on Saturday for the 10th win in a row. So they're hot right now. And like you said, if they can continue that, they got a chance. They really do.
Yeah. So watch the Big South. Watch Winthrop. Another really good team in that league is High Point down in North Carolina, and so it's exciting. And you basketball fans out there, remember the name Sid Christ. He's an assistant down there, and I think you're going to see him as a head coach someday. And I see that Mickey has joined us, and let me bring him in. Let's see.
Mickey in there.
Hey, sorry about that, guys. I had some technical difficulties.
Well, we're usually simulcasting on the New River Network and on the Voice of College Football, obviously, where we are tonight. But Darren's down in Florida, so he couldn't produce the show. So I'm doing that, and we're using a different platform. So if it looks different, sounds different, that's the story. But
it is different.
Yeah, it is different.
It is different.
It is different. In fact, I can't tell the difference between Mickey and Greg on this. I just can't tell the difference. But no, seriously.
Greg's a mini-me.
Yeah, there you go.
Mickey.
Very good.
Frank, back to the basketball we're talking about. Hey, people want to watch some good basketball. These teams are good. And there's some high-level players. And with this money thing the way it is now, a lot of these smaller places have money. And with this money thing going on now, I've seen some guys play this year that I suspect we'll be watching in the NBA at some point. They're that good, but you don't hear about them because they're in the smaller conferences. But
right.
If you want to see some good basketball, I'm telling you now, there's some players and there's some good teams. And they talk a lot about, these upsets. Well, this team upset that team. But, and then you start looking at it and, excuse me, you have a team like Winthrop, for example. I forget the number of players on their roster. It's maybe 14. 10 of those guys, the 10 guys that play are seniors, all 10 of them. That's why they're good. You got 10 guys at that age, has been playing a while. They're going to be good. And, that's what a lot of these teams are. They build their programs, because they don't do it the typical way that's being done today. Even though there is money there, they're able to get some players now. And so I'm not so sure you can always call these games upsets.
That's right.
It's leveled in my mind, it's leveled the playing field in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Football, a little different story, but basketball, I think it's leveled things out.
Yeah. Well, when you look at the WVU roster and you think of Huff, Eaglestaff, and Moore, they all played for what we call in football the group of five. It's the group of six.
Right.
But these are in basketball, we call them the mid-majors. they have an opportunity to show themselves, and they do really well. I mean, Eaglestaff was a big time scorer for North Dakota last year. I followed more because I grew up near St. Bonaventure, and of course Huff was right up there. I think he may have led the nation in threes last year. So some of them move up. Obviously, a lot of them do, but a number of them stay. And you're right. I mean, you're absolutely correct about that. And it's good basketball. You know, the level of training these guys are getting, the nutrition, everything that goes into, well, you know how important the preparation is, Mick, having played football at WVU. And these guys are getting a lot of care. Many of them are getting really good backgrounds to go in. And as anybody who played basketball 20 years ago, looking at it today, they'll say, you know, the game is so much faster. These guys tend to be bigger, particularly not just in height, but also in terms of girth. You know, it's good basketball. So Sid Christ and Winthrop follow that team. By the way, Mickey, I just saw this before we came on. I was telling Greg, the Mountaineers picked up a really good defensive back this afternoon, just when we thought everything was finished. Did you see that? His name is Tim Roberson, and he's from Iowa Western. And I was telling Greg, I actually, just by happenstance, had an opportunity to see him play about, 4 or 5 weeks ago. His team, Iowa Western, was playing Hutchinson Community College of Kansas in the national championship game. And he was a D-back for Iowa Western. They won the game. The guy had 33 tackles this year, 6 interceptions, started his career at Troy. He's from Valdosta, Georgia, then went to community college, and I think he has 2 years left of eligibility. So this is a guy that really adds a lot of depth. He bolsters that defensive backfield that we talked about last week.
Yeah, sounds like a real good pickup there. Hey, before we get off that basketball subject, did you see where there's a documentary coming out about Bob Huggins?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I just saw that.
You see the trailer on it? It looks great.
I did. I think Mountaineer Paul, I saw it through Mountaineer Paul, who has a show, obviously, like ours, and I saw it on X. He got permission to show a portion of it, so I had a chance. Very good, high-quality production, and, you know, here's a guy that, if he had continued to coach, would have been the winningest coach in major college history, so it makes sense.
Looking forward to that coming out. That'll be a great documentary to watch.
Absolutely. You know, we're all history buffs, and you got to honor the guys that went before and made the game what it is. And it's very difficult. Here's a guy again who played ball at West Virginia and then became a coach. You got to, no matter how you feel about him, you got to give him his dues. Last Final Four we were in, he was there, obviously the head coach. So it's good. So for all of you who are looking to see it, just go on X and just go to Mountaineer Paul's page. And as I said, he had permission. How did you see it, Mick?
I saw it on X.
Okay.
Saw it on X, yeah. Picked that up, and also noticed an article about our good friend Tony Caridi. You see, he has been elected the 2026 Woody Durham Voice of College Sports Award winner for 2026.
I did not know that.
Yep.
He deserves it.
Oh, he really does. Really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's voted on by all the former winners.
Yeah.
So congrats to Tony winning.
Wow.
We'll probably be next up for it, Frank.
I'll tell you what, that we'll be up for the voice of something. I don't know. It won't be of college sports, but it'll be the voice. Hey, but you know, we've got a Hall of Famer here in Craig Christ. Hey, so I mean, that's all we need. Mick, it's by association. As long as I hang out with you two guys, I'm okay. So anyway,
what's that song say? We got friends in low places.
But you know, every time there's a national game, lots of times when there's national, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but or go too far. But lots of times when there are national games, West Virginia, it's not unusual for the announcer to acknowledge Tony Caridi and
Oh
talk
yeah.
about how great he is, and a tremendous, tremendous voice, and he's been around for so many years. It's just amazing, and he's just doesn't miss a beat. So. It's interesting when we had him on, Greg, he corrected me on a mistake, and I didn't know it at the time, but I referred to him as the voice of Mountaineer sports. And I
Right.
didn't realize that he is not formally the voice of Mountaineer sports, because when Jack Fleming retired, he got the university, to sign an agreement that he will forever be the voice of WVU Mountaineer sports. So he
Yeah.
corrected me, and so if you didn't know that out there, you do now. So you can't call Tony that formally, but in fact, wink, wink, he really is.
Yeah. Yeah, he is now for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, before we talk,
Some of us lucky enough to have been around to hear both of them.
That's right.
And when I was growing up, and of course you guys too, we didn't get games on TV. I mean, if there was a Mountaineer game on TV, it was unusual. Sometimes they'd show West Virginia and Pitt, occasionally Penn State and West Virginia, but rarely did we see a TV game. And every game in the country started at 1 o'clock, and at 1 o'clock we tuned in to Jack Fleming and listened to it on the radio. So we listened to him a lot, And I remember how hard it was when Tony first started for me, listening to him. I don't know, it just didn't sound right, And of course, I listened to Jack for so long. But after a while, now, if you hear somebody else, it don't sound right without being Tony. It should be, should be Tony,
Yeah.
And both legends, that's for sure.
Yeah. But he comes from pedigree stock. The Syracuse University Communications program just pushes out sports writers and sports broadcaster like you wouldn't believe. And Tony, as he told us when we had him on the show, and I knew this anyway, he started at another school, and he was taken aside and basically told, you've got a lot of talent. It's not that you won't get a good education here, but if you want to get into the network, what you need to do is to think about transferring to Syracuse, which he did. And when you think of so many of the great voices, almost all of them, or a good share of them, are either Northwestern grads or they're the communication school, their sports communication, or Syracuse. I think Syracuse is considered El Primo, but why am I blanking on this? But the guy that called the Super Bowl the other night. Why can't I think of his name?
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's been around forever. He's a graduate of that program, and so he comes from tremendous network and came to Morgantown. He's been here ever since. That goes back to the '80s. So good for him. Good for Bob Huggins. Always good to honor those that have put us on the map with a signature.
Yep.
So that's great.
Yep, that's good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So,
hey, about basketball, guys, before we talk more about football. And by the way, yes, Tony Altimore is supposed to be with us tonight. We hope he will join us, but we can't say that for sure. So hopefully Tony will join us. He has a lot to say, obviously, about college sports. Nobody does it better in terms of the data analysis. But we don't see him. He's not here yet. And we'll soldier on and then get there. But let's talk about men's and women's basketball before we get back to football.
I'll tell you.
Greg.
Wow. Watching the games, the last couple of games, I texted you guys and said, if you play good defense, you got a chance. And we played against Cincinnati. We were horrible in the first half. Not bad defensively. I mean, a lot of people, we only scored 20 points. Well, we did. They only scored 30, And the second half, I think they scored 24. So our defense was pretty stellar, as was theirs in that game. And we were able to finally start making some shots. And and come back and win it. Against Texas Tech, I thought we played pretty good defense. We again, 70 points is not a lot in a college basketball game, and but we could not buy a basket. And I saw our 3-point shooting, I think, was 2 for 22. I think 9%. Um, you know, you're not going to win many games doing that. I mean, you've got to. That defense is great and will keep you in the game, which it did. I mean, we only lost by 7. You make a few shots, we win that game. And but for some reason here lately, we just have not been able to convert. We just have not been able to make baskets, and our scorers are not scoring. And you know, and a team made up like West Virginia's, when your main scorers are struggling, obviously the whole team struggles because you don't have that third option of powering it inside and having reliable people inside to score. We don't have a lot of that. I mean, we got some big guys that can play and that sort of thing, but we don't have that go-to person. We can just go get a bucket, to break the ice, so to speak, and that just adds pressure to everybody. And then I think that the more that pressure builds, the harder it gets to score. And we have just been, struggling on the offensive end so bad. And but the good thing about that is it's we're just a little past midway of the season, and we got a ways to go. And you get that, you break through on that end, then look out. We could be good, but we've got to start making some shots. That's for daggone sure. You can't win if you can't score.
Yeah. Mick, and we talked about this a bit the other day. What's amazing about this, we shot 44% for the game, despite Eagles staff and Huff going 2 for 17. And one of those was a layup by Eagles staff, only 1 3, and it was from Eagles staff. Huff didn't have a basket from the field. We out-rebounded Texas Tech. We had fewer turnovers in Texas Tech, 18 more points in the paint, but we were 13 for 23 from the foul line. And, it's really tough to win when your 2 big scorers, right, Mick, just aren't.
Yeah.
It's like your running backs are not getting yards. We saw what can happen with, Seahawks when their running back got going. I mean, he was impossible to stop. But your thoughts?
Yeah, as poorly as we played on offense, I mean, we were still in there. We only lost the game by 7 points, So, I mean, if we shot 70% at the foul line, we'd have tied the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we made 7 out of 10 at the foul line. The one thing that concerns me, and Greg, maybe you can comment on this as a former coach, but our team foul shooting just doesn't seem to be up to par to me. I mean, I think we're 68, 70% as a team, and most teams I'll watch are up there high 80s, even 90%. At the foul line. That seems to be hurting us quite a bit, I think. But you're exactly right, Greg. If the offense gets going, the way we're playing defensively, we could make a deep run perhaps in the tournament.
Yeah, this foul shooting thing. You're right. That's poor. When I was coaching high school, our goal was to shoot at least 85%, and didn't always do it, but tried, and that was the goal. And when you're not making those foul shots, I don't care how few or many, it makes a huge difference in the game. Going back to Winthrop in their game Saturday, they shot 45 foul shots, but they made 40 of them. They shot poorly from the floor, but they still won the game going away because they made 40 out of 45 foul shots. And that makes a tremendous difference. And even if you're shooting 20 or 25, you knock in 20, 22 of them, that's a chunk. And not only are we not scoring from the floor, we're not shooting well from the free throw line. And I think it all culminates together. I think, when your top scorers are not hitting, you're not making free throws, you don't have that big person to go ahead and take some pressure off. I think that pressure just builds, and they want to make it so bad that they're just not converting, they're just not relaxing and shooting the ball. And you've seen Huff, take shots when he's comfortable, some unbelievable shots. I mean, he takes shots from 30 feet with people right in his face and drains them. And so he's, obviously relaxed when he shoots those. I don't know if he's feeling the pressure and just tightening up. I don't know what it is, but hopefully it's just a funk they're going through, and can squeeze out of it some way and get it going, because you can't, you don't typically go in slumps on defense. A lot of defense is effort, and as long as you're putting that effort in defensively, again, it gives you a chance. You got a shot, and we don't have to. It's not like we suddenly need to shoot 50% from the floor or 95% from the free throw line. We don't have to do that. If we can shoot 80% from a free throw line and 40% from the floor, we're going to win some games. We're going to win a lot of games. Just because of that defense. So, like Mick said, hopefully we get that going and can make us a run in the tournament. But they're going to get right. I mean, they've got with their record, they're going to have to win some Big 12 tournament games to get in, I think, and so they're going to have to get that corrected pretty soon. I can't, I know we got a ways to go yet, but they can't go into that tournament and get bumped out the first round and expect to get in.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the one good thing is that they've got a space of time here. The next game isn't until Saturday
Right.
at Central Florida. But here's the schedule. There are 7 games, I think, left. So it's Central Florida on the road on Saturday. West Virginia will not be favored in that. Then Utah at home. West Virginia will be favored in that. Then TCU away. Those are the 2 games next week. They will not be favored in that. TCU knocked off Iowa State last night. TCU is awfully tough at home. Then the following week, it's Oklahoma State away. West Virginia won't be favored in that. BYU at home. They're one of the better teams in the league with a prolific scorer. And then they close the season. Kansas State away. That's winnable, but it's away. And then again with Central Florida, this time at home to close the season. They're 15-9 right now. I'm thinking with that schedule, maybe 18-13. I'm thinking maybe 3-4, maybe 4-3. That would make it 19-12. And so get your thoughts on this, Mick. But I agree with Greg. They're going to have to do some damage. I mean, if they can win 5 of the last 7, makes a big deal. They're not playing the top teams. They're not playing, they've already played the Houstons, the Arizonas, and the Texas Techs. But these 7 games it's not a cakewalk. But then if they can win 5 games, 4 at least, and then if they can do some damage in the tournament. But I'm not even sure they're a bubble team yet.
I don't think so at this point, quite frankly. Of course, I'm certainly not a basketball expert. One of the things I found interesting, I heard one of the commentators on Saturday in a Texas Tech game talk about the first 6 games, places 1 through 6 in the Big 12 get a first round bye, I believe, in the tournament. And the first 2 teams, I believe, get a double bye. Is that correct? Do you know the tournament format that closely? But if we could improve, and we're right on the bubble right now. I think we're 6th in the conference right now. If there's some way we could come out with a winning record here in these last few games and get a bye in the initial game, that certainly would near to our benefit, I would think. But it's going to be a tough.
That sounds right to me, Greg. I mean,
yeah,
with these large conferences now, it's not unusual for that staggered system, and you get rewarded if you're in the top, whatever. In this case, you're talking about 6, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that is right. From what I can remember, I think that is right.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely could use. It would be nice to get that by, and. But again, I'm like Mick. I think we need to. You just almost have to be at 20 wins, have any shot, and then win a game in your tournament. I just feel like, I don't know, with the way we've been playing, and these national TV games, they recognize that, they see that, that weighs on them. And I just think we're just going to have to show out, to get positive attention to get a bid. I just think we really need, now if we get on a hot streak and win the last 7 games, that's a different story. But I don't think that's going to happen. That's an awful tough schedule. And I'm like Frank. I think if we can win 3 or 4 of those, that would be great. But then we definitely got to win at minimum two in the tournament at minimum.
Yeah.
And that might get us there.
Yeah.
What do you think about the NIT? Perhaps if let's say we win 4 out of the last 7, or even 3 out of the last 7, you think we make it to the NIT? And would you go?
I think definitely, and I'll tell you one thing that obviously is important to the NIT that WVU delivers big time is the fans. NIT wants butts in seats, and I think we would be privileged and get home games and bring the fans in. So I think, Greg, see what you think about that. My take is to Mickey's. It's a good question. I think after last year's slight of the NCAA and not deciding not to go to any postseason tournament, I think I would be shocked if we end up with 20 wins and we'll be offered an NIT slot that we would decline it. What do you think, Craig?
Yeah, I can't imagine us unless our coach is leaving. Then they may decline, but otherwise, I would think that they would definitely accept it. Yeah, because it's just more practice, more time, more visibility, and the NIT tournament. Although it's not the big dance as they say, it's a tournament that people watch and people see, and like you said, Frank, they want attendance, and we typically show up. So I think I don't think there's any question we would accept it. And unless the coach is leaving, then we may not. But yeah, I think we definitely would accept it.
Yeah, well, you flip the coin over. Hey, the women's club is in a very different spot. 20-5, a half a game out of first place. I mean, Mark Kellogg, I didn't know this, guys. We all know it now because it's been on television that in terms of percentage wins, he's like 4th or 5th among all active coaches. So this guy's the real deal. Greg and I had a chance to meet him last year, and he's affable. Clearly the women love playing for him, and he's done a great job. And they're playing as we speak. I'll get a score up here in a second. They're playing UCF at home tonight. They're a 24.5 favorite tonight against Central Florida. That should be a win, obviously. That'd be a huge upset. Then they play TCU away. That's a tough one. Playing at TCU, they lost there last year. Then they play Oklahoma State at home. West Virginia will be a favorite there. UCF again at WVU this time. They're playing at, in Orlando tonight. They're a 24.5 favorite. No, it's home at 24.5. Then away at UCF. Sorry about that. So home tonight, then they play UCF in the second to last game of the season. I think it's in March. And then Cincinnati, a team they've already beaten at home. They beat them away, but this time they get them at home. I could easily see this team go 24-6, 23-7 going into the Big 12 tournament. Right now, they're projected to be a 5 or 4 seed in the tournament. I don't know how far they'll get, but they're, they've got a good inside game. They've got scorers. They play well together, although they do end up with some periods where they look, you wonder how, this is a really good team. Why is it playing this way? But, Greg, you were a coach. That's basketball.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. When you look at that team, you think about them as good as they are and as well as they're doing. They have lost a couple of games they probably should have won. And, so they could very easily be in there with 2 or 3 losses instead of 4 or 5. And, Yeah, they do. They have good inside game. They shoot the ball pretty well. They're tenacious on defense. Again, they play good hard defense. And I think back. You think back, Frank, when Mickey, when the season first started, and we had that Duke fiasco up in Greenbrier County. When you saw that happen, you had to think right there that there's something special about this team, that they're going to be something to contend with through the season. And I think they've shown that. And yeah, they wouldn't surprise me a bit if they made a nice run, got a good seed, and made a nice run in the tournament, because they're a good basketball team, like Frank said, and they go through lulls, and again, lost a couple games they probably shouldn't have lost, but that happens. And if it's going to happen, you want it to happen middle of the season. You don't want it to happen at the end of the season. So hopefully that's behind them, and they can same way with the guys. You get that behind you, and hopefully end of the season you start playing well and get it going. That usually is, you see somebody gets hot, and this team's playing well at the end of the season. That's who ends up in the national championships and that sort of thing. So you hope you get the lull behind you, and get hot during the end of the season, and then roll on through. And they're fun to watch. I know I'm not a huge women's basketball fan. I don't watch a lot of it, but I enjoy watching them play. They're fun to watch. They're exciting.
And I'm thinking as you're talking, Mick, just like you guys back in the day at WVU had great leadership on those teams of the late 60s, early 70s. And that the women's team, you can see, has leadership. It's not just the coaching. The coaching's great, but there are leaders on the floor, and you just can't buy that. You know it when you don't have it, and you know it when you do have it.
And you see the sort of thing it produces in this team. Not only are they doing well this year, but guys, this is the third consecutive year that they have won 20 games.
Yeah.
But this isn't an outlier. This is a foundation that the coach has laid here and continue well on to the future. They just cracked the top 20 with last week's win. They're now 20th in the nation. They're 10-3 in the Big 12, and they number 20 in the AP poll, and they had those two huge wins already over Baylor and Arizona. So, as Greg said, this is a powerhouse, and if they peak just right, during the tournament, wouldn't surprise me at all if they won a Big 12.
Yeah, there's absolutely no question. By the way, they're up by 19, 39-20, with 4 minutes left in the half. So they're doing it according to script, and they're fun to watch. And so yeah, so that's really important. I think we obviously want all the Mountaineer teams to do really, really well. And none of us is saying that the men are underperforming. He lost 100% of his team. In fact, it's bizarre. When I was watching the Cincinnati game, Mick, the other day, to see two former Mountaineers, playing for Cincinnati, and it's like,
yep.
Whoa! And so that's the nature of the beast these days. But he didn't have any holdovers from last year, so he had to put completely a new roster together. Did a good job with it. And as the weeks go on, we'll start profiling the guys he's bringing in next year. But that's really exciting. Yeah. And they're drawing, Greg, too, they're drawing well. There was a day, as you know, when women's basketball didn't draw much.
Oh, yeah.
But they're drawing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Because you got a good product out there. And like I said, they're fun to watch. And, people want to watch them. And even the men's team, even with their struggles, people show up to watch them. There's just, I don't know, there's just a different feeling up there now. Last year, you watched games thinking, gosh, I wonder how bad we'll get beat, or we had one guy could score and that was it. And it was almost hard to watch sometimes. This year, even though you may not think we might win, it's still fun to watch them because they're competitive, and the girls team is just, they just get out there and get after you. And that makes that fun to watch. So it's these guys are laying good foundations to really keep this thing cranked up and keep it going. And when you're looking at, rebuilding that roster like that, that's hard to do. I don't care. People say what they want. Well, you pay this much, this much, this much. That's fine, but you still got to have guys that can play with each other, can play together. They got to know the roles. They got to accept their roles, and they got to perform their roles. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it rather than just throwing, 5 good players out there. And I think he's done a good job of blending these guys together. And I think you got to give him time. I mean, my goodness, you can't expect a miracle in 1 year. And this is not Indiana football. You got to give him some time to get his, type of players. He obviously likes the defensive mindset. So, I feel good about him. I feel good about the men's program and the women's program. I think is proven to be solid. They're like Mickey said, they're a juggernaut. They're solid, and it's not an anomaly that they're winning these games. They're just they're well coached, and he's brought talent in, and he knows what he's doing. You can tell that. And I think the men's team will be fine as well. I think we got a person there that is, as long as he stays put, is going to do great things. So I feel pretty good about both men's and women's program.
Yeah, and you got to give Ren Baker a lot of credit. I mean, we know that we lost DeVries after 1 year, but the same thing happened with the women's program. Brought in a high-flying coach. She was here for 1 year, left for Minnesota, and so he had to go right back to the well to get a replacement and hit a home run. And so that Ren Baker has that knack of being able to sift and sort through talent. And now you run the risk of losing people like he did with DeVries, but at the same time, you want to bring in good coaches. And, one of the things that we don't talk about in football, because it's obvious, given what I'm going to say, but it does apply in women's basketball, is that you can't assume that a woman is going to be the head coach.
Right.
And so, and a lot of coaches, if you look at the Big 12, a good share of the coaches are men. And that takes a special connection to have a coach that women want to play for. Obviously, Gina Auriemma at UConn is probably the leading name in terms of a man leading a program for a number of years. But when you think of some of the other names, look at the UCLA coach, for example, and you look at the coach at Tennessee for years and years and years. But so it takes a special talent to be able for a man to come into really the women's game, get respected, have the relationship, and be able to have a winning product out there. And they've done that, and he's done that. Mark Kellogg, a lot of kudos. Let's also give a shout out. We did it last week, but just to follow up, Greg, that it's the first pitch is going out this Friday night. The Mountaineers are already or close to being in Georgia to place Georgia Southern. And again, the beautiful thing about it is almost all the games are going to be on ESPN plus the games that don't get into network television. And the Friday night game starts at 6:30. That's on ESPN plus. Saturday game, the 14th, is 2 p.m. again on ESPN plus. And the Sunday game is an 11:30 start, late morning game, also at Georgia Southern. Then they repeat the next weekend with a 3-game set, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Liberty, moving up from Georgia to Virginia. And so a lot of hype for this team. I'm looking forward to getting accustomed to the roster, particularly what the pitching staff looks like. Both the starters, and of course, it's different, in college ball where you've got your Friday starter, Saturday starter, Sunday starter, and then you weave in your relief. But I'm excited because I get a chance to watch them. And so we encourage everybody out there, if you don't already have ESPN Plus, I think it's a good investment, but obviously it costs some bucks. But I'm excited about the Mountaineer baseball.
Oh yeah, and one good thing about it is, spring's right around the corner. That's one thing I'm excited about with it, and we'll be freezing to death the next 6 months. So looking forward to spring, but yeah, it's on us, and we had a lot of hype, a lot of talk about them, and have signed some good players. Got some transfers in. I was noticing. It should be fun to watch. We lost some good players, and if you see what they're doing in the major leagues, and you realize how good they were. But again, another program where you just feel like everything's heading in the right direction. We've got the foundation's been laid, and we just keep building and building and building. And I'm anxious to see the pitching staff. That's at any level of baseball, you got to have pitching to win. And our pitching came on last year pretty nicely, and you hope that can continue. But yeah, I'm anxious to see them too, and just see what kind of team we got. Because again, just like last year, hopefully be fun to watch. Last year's baseball team, they were a fun team to watch, and it's going to be exciting. Like I said, I think we've got another situation where you feel comfortable with what we got going on there. So definitely looking forward to that. Mick, I don't know, big baseball fan or not, I don't know where you stand, but
well, I followed it a little bit. I noticed their preseason polls. Their preseason ranked number 3 in the Big 12 and number 21 in the national poll. Last 2 years back to back, having made the super regionals. I think for big things from them this year. I think, in addition to the pitching, the question I have is most of our power hitters are gone.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're going to have the sluggers up there to plate that we've had in the past. I think that's going to determine what kind of season we have. I did notice one piece of trivia that there's a good chance, I thought this was very interesting, there's a real good chance that all 4 of the infielders played shortstop.
Yes.
Either in high school or junior college. So there's a good chance we're going to have 4 shortstops out there on the infield. So you're going to have a lot of dexterity, a lot of flexibility, a lot of great plays made if that comes to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It reminded me, I played stop short on my high school baseball team, but they never got a chance to start. But I read that, and I thought that was interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. That is very interesting, and that's gonna, not that there was an issue last year. Some people would say there was an issue, but that really is going to ramp up the defense.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got guys that typically on your team, your best glove is usually your shortstop guy. You always want to be strong up the middle, second base, shortstop, center field. And if you got 4 guys that are capable of playing shortstop, you got 4 guys that are capable of playing anywhere on the field. And so that'll be interesting, fun to watch too. And that might be another, much like the basketball team, might be a defensive squad.
That's right.
Might win games 2-0. So
well, and we talked last week a bit, Greg, that the out of conference schedule isn't as I don't want to say difficult, but clearly what they're focusing on is the Big Ten schedule. And so just like with the attendance at the basketball games, fans come out for the baseball team. And that's important when it comes time for picking at those teams that are going to host the regional and then the super regional. It's not just the record, but it's the attendance. And so I think that, fingers crossed, WVU has a good chance this year. I think they not only have a good season, but also goes to regional. But, the Big 12, the advantage goes to the southern part, the teams in Texas and so on because of the weather. But let's keep our fingers crossed. By the way, it's halftime, and according to script, the Mountaineers are doing what they're supposed to do. They have doubled the score on Central Florida, 45-22. So they're going to move up even more in the standings there, Mick, and we're appreciative of that. But anyway, I want to throw this up. This is football, and we talked about this last week. Greg, want to get your thoughts about this. This is the WVU schedule football for this season. We've gone over this before, but what we talked about last week, and I'll try to compress this and then turn to you and then also get Mickey's further thoughts. The very early profiles in terms of the strongest teams in the Big 12. And again, it's awfully early. and it's not the same as 5 years ago because of the portal, et cetera. But they're basically saying that the teams to watch are the teams that we play toward the end of the season, particularly Texas Tech and Houston and Utah. And so we talked last week about if that holds to form, and sometimes it doesn't. Arizona State, for example, came out of literally nowhere a couple of years ago to basically win the Big 12 championship. But when you look about the way that sets up, we talked about, if that holds to form, the consensus was you'd much rather play the teams that you have to beat to stay in contention, to be in contention at the end versus in the beginning. So your thoughts about that, Greg?
Yeah, I like this schedule the way it's set up. I think getting away from these powerhouses at the beginning of the season is a good move. It gives us time to get our feet under us, get a little bit of confidence rolling into some of these conference games, and then playing these better teams later on. I think we've seen our team over the past couple of years improve as the season's gone on, and I think you look at a lot of games, and I don't know how many times I've said and heard people say, man, I wish we'd have played them now instead of the second game of the season. And I know on the other side, people are saying, well, it's their second game of the season too. And I get that. But, when you're building a program and trying to grow it and get your chemistry and get your culture and all that set, it takes a little longer than if you come in as a powerhouse, so to speak. But I like the way the schedule sets up. I think, some of those early games aren't easy. I mean, they're not going to be walkovers, but I see TCU, Texas Tech, and tough. That's a tough little stretch there. And then with Utah, I don't know. You never know about these guys. You look at Houston, for example. We went down there last year and just shellacked them. But Utah getting new coach coming in. Again, that's going to be the last game of the season, so they'll have their things ironed out as well. But I like the way it shapes up. I think the early schedule looks good. Get us momentum, get us wins under our belt.
Yeah,
get us confidence. Go ahead.
Yeah, that, and I misspoke. It's not Utah that's picked among the top. BYU is included, but we're not playing them next year. It's
right.
Houston. So thanks for bringing that up, Greg. It's the Texas Techs, the Houstons. Those are the teams that we've got to worry about, and TCU as well. And that two games away skiing, the 24th of October and the 7th of November. Those are the games that frighten me the most. Houston's going to be tough, but we get them at home. So I don't know, but I agree with Greg. I think it sets up pretty well.
Oh, I agree too. I really like the fact we have 7 home games again this year, which always helps to be playing at home.
Yeah, 7.
Yeah. As I said last week, if you're going to contend for the heavyweight championship, you don't want to take on a champ in your first fight. So the way this builds throughout the system, throughout the season, I think really helps us. And I think the number again on the roster, Frank, keep me honest on this, but I think we have 75 new players again this year. If I read that correctly the other day, we've got 48 signees and 27 from the portal. Is that correct? Oh, you got the numbers there?
Yeah, I've got the numbers. I loaded that into the system here. You got 35 holdovers from last year that still have eligibility. You've got 49 who came in early recruitment, and most of those are enrolled now, which, as you mentioned last week, that's really important because otherwise if they don't, they're not going to come in until summer, and that's tough. And then you had 34, now 35 in the portal, and you can see most of the portal guys are already enrolled. in spring semester. And so I don't know about that Roberson that we just picked up when he's coming in. But the problem is, again, and this is another thing I was hoping to get the information I could share tonight. WVU under Rodriguez has been, how can I say this? The announcement of the spring celebration, the spring game comes later. My hope is it's going to be next week that we're going to know. Last year, it was the first week. It went from the last week of April under Brown to the first week of April under Rodriguez. In fact, we did a show at Kegler's for that last year. He was either April 4th or 5th, but we don't have that date set. But if Rodriguez keeps the same schedule, then it'll be the 4th or 5th of April this year. And here we are, the middle of February. So spring practice is going to start pretty soon. And you can see that the max roster is 105, and we're way over that. I mean, we're way over that. So that spring practice is critical in the spring game because a lot of the guys, Mick, that at least a share of the guys that are on the roster now are just not going to be there in the fall.
Yeah.
Frank, one point I'd like to make too about this is, the big difference in last year and this year. Last year we come in late, totally blind, and had to scramble to get together a roster, and he just brought in everybody could bring in, hoping to find some gems in that. I think they found a few, which they had some holdovers, which that's a good thing. So we've got people that's been in the system and are there. And also, the coaching staff had time this time, to work the portal and to look into the portal and to find players that fit the type of players that we need. And the recruiting was top of the charts, bringing high school players in and that sort of thing. So I think there's a big difference in, the new players, if you will, that's coming in this year as opposed to last year, and the fact that, they've had time to research them a little bit. They've had time to look at them and see what we wanted, what we needed, and we have some folks that are going to be back from last year. So I think it's a different picture. Even though it sounds similar, it's a different picture when you really dig in and start looking at it at the way we're bringing players in. So hopefully we'll fare a lot better with that this year.
Yeah, and as you said last week, Mick, I think it bears repeating. You look at the kinds of, I'll just throw it up here. You just look at some of the players that they're bringing in. We're competing really well against SEC schools, and a lot of these players, I think in other years, would have ended up on SEC rosters. But this is just the top-rated early signing recruit. Of course, everybody knows Kevin Brown. We got from when he flipped from Penn State. But you look at Latimer, who's going to play probably the number 2. I mean, we only have one ring back that has had any experience playing college ball. I mean, so that we're going to need depth there. So he's going to play. And Hutchins is a wide receiver from Mississippi. Henson, defensive line. He's from Kansas. And let me bring up the other recruits here if I can. Let's bring this up. And again, yep, there we go. So these are good guys. These are really good guys. But I think you made a really important point last week that bears repeating, Mick, about getting the kids out of the South with their speed.
Yeah, got a number of players in the SEC. We're going to be a much faster team this year, I believe, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. But the thing I really, really like about it this year, the way it works out compared to last year, is getting those new players into the weightlifting program in January, February, into the winter workout program to improve the flexibility, in the February, March time frame. And not only from an individual perspective, but those guys having a chance to be around each other, to get to know each other and to bond rather than the situation we had last year where, probably 30-40% of the players didn't show up until summer ball. So that makes a huge difference from a player's perspective, I believe, in terms of the morale and in terms to the platform that you're building upon. There's more of a brotherhood, if you will, that is more meaningful than, guys coming into last time.
Yeah, especially when you're trying to change the culture. The earlier you can get these guys in, they get used to the culture, they can contribute to the culture, and then you can have a better sense if they don't fit the culture. So that's really important. I mean, one of the things I guess, Greg, that this I think is telling me, and I think you guys would agree with that, is, and Mick and Greg, you've already said it, things are different this year from last year, and so it's and yet, the proof is in the pudding. I had a colleague who was always used to say that. He said, predictions, predictions, but the proof is in the pudding. Can you deliver, so to speak? And so I was looking at that today. There's ESPN. Everybody has their system and analytics, and I picked it up because I thought Tony was going to be with us tonight, and he actually reported it on X. You can see it on his X page, and he reported the work that Bill Connolly is doing with his analytics, and it's called SP Plus. And I have no idea, even reading the article that Bill put on ESPN, what SP Plus is. The only thing I can say is he said it's a very good system. but in that system of 136 teams, he's got West Virginia 93rd. 93rd. And there are only two Big 12 teams below that, Colorado at 96 and Oklahoma State at 121. And so I think you'd have to just close your eyes to that, not because you're a homer, at least that's my feeling, see what you guys think. But I think we're turning the page here, if not an entirely new, getting a new book out of the library. And, to base it on data from last year, to trying to predict what's going to happen I just cannot believe under any circumstance, when everything is said and done, we're going to be 93rd out of 136 teams. That just doesn't make any sense to me on the face of it.
No, it's just like, we talked about it a lot last year. It's just so hard to predict because so many new faces in all these teams. And, so I don't pay much attention to any of those rankings. I don't think they mean anything, to be honest with you. I just think, looking at our situation, it's better. And if you think back on our team, even though we got hammered pretty good the last game of the year, it was an awful good team we were playing, the season was over. Our team got better as the year went on, and they played hard. They fought and played, never gave up. And they found some good players in that group.
Right.
And like I said, this is just a different feel because they've had time to find out what, last year they just took whoever they could get out of the portal. They took whatever they could get and tried to mold them into something. And that's hard to do, at that level. And I think this year with the time that he's had to, to really study these players and find the ones that he needed. We got some good players in that portal, and I think the whole feeling is different. And I would be shocked if we were 93rd or whatever it was you said. So I don't put much stock into that. I put more stock into what we see and what we watch and what we know than people out there that that are doing this for everybody because it's so hard to predict. You don't know what these teams are going to have year to year to year. You don't know what your schedule is going to be. Even though you got your schedule, you don't know how good of a schedule it's going to be. You don't know how good these teams will actually turn out. And so it's hard to say. I just like the fact that we've got holdovers that we know can play. We brought in good players. We had a great recruiting class, and I think I don't think we're magically going to be Indiana next year, but I think we're going to be better. And then I think years after that, it's going to be a steady improvement.
Mm-hmm. Mick?
Well, the only thing I like about that, being ranked 93rd, is it makes great bulletin board material. I mean, if I'm a coach I'm going to get that article. I'm going to blow it up. I'm going to
Yep.
highlight it in yellow. And I'm going to have it right there in the locker room. So those kids are looking at it every day. Because that's a motivator for you right there. So that, that's from a player's perspective, that's the one thing I like about it. It's just like we were ranked year before last. I think we were ranked last in the Big 12 in the conclusion polls, weren't we? And
Yeah.
weren't given a chance to win any games. You. So yeah, I kind of like that stuff because it makes good fodder to put up there that get the kids motivated with.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just I agree. Well stated by both of you. It gets you motivated, and should get you motivated.
Absolutely.
And this is not. There's very little continuity. Well, the other day I went back and looked at a video of Indiana's first home game under Signetti, and I wanted to see. The crowd. There was nobody there. Which is the way it has been for years at Indiana. Nobody was there. How many people could have ever imagined that script would be completely flipped and they would go from the by percentage the losingest team in major college football to a national championship? And again, as Greg said, we're not predicting that, but the point is you got a really experienced hand as a head coach who's done this, been there, understands it. And as a consequence, I'm not saying we're going to be the Arizona State this year, but I don't see us as 13th or 14th in the Big 12. And yet, as Mix, you said multiple times, that Virginia game early on is going to be a definer because they've awoken too. Virginia is a much better team now than they had been. But step by step. Women, by the way, are up by 30, 57-27, midway in the third. But
good stuff. Good stuff. Well, guys, I tell you, we soldiered through here and made it without Tony. Hopefully, we can get some good news that everything's good on his end. Kind of unusual for him not to show, but we made it.
Yep.
And, always fun to talk some Mountaineer sports to you guys.
Oh, absolutely. And just to follow up, Tony's a colleague. He's been on the show twice before. We've been on other shows with him, and he's a good guy. And the thing that's got me a little bit worried is that he is always on social media, and he hasn't posted for a couple of weeks. And he responded immediately when we invited him to be on the show tonight because he's worth a quote. In fact, I don't know if you guys saw it on Facebook, but a viewer got on and really lambasted him because Tony was very outspoken. He's a USC grad, and he was very outspoken. He thought that there was no chance at all that the Pac-12 would go out of business. And he was wrong, dead wrong. And unfortunately, Tony used strong language against the Big Ten and the Big 12 and its fans for even uttering the words, "You guys are toast." And people were offended by that. And, when you share your opinion, particularly when it's a prediction, other people aren't necessarily going to share that. And even if no matter where they're coming from, you're going to probably get whacked across the head. But he was wrong. But the tea leaves, nobody could read the tea leaves. He read them wrong. And so, unfortunately, from my perspective, the Pac-12 isn't. But as we've talked on this show, Greg and Mickey, maybe at some point we'll go back to regional play. And if so, the Pac-12 will come back the way it was or close to it. We'll just have to see.
Always hope.
Bring back the Big East.
There you go.
Oh, man.
Always hope. Always hoping with these regional things. And again, we keep waiting on something good to happen with all this mess that we're in. And something will. At some point, something has to. So hopefully it'll be something like that where we get that regional play and get some of these old rivalries back in order. That'd be great. So,
well, I hope so because what's going to happen, guys, and we're already seeing evidence of this. If they don't get this in order, it's going to get crazier and crazier. And the biggest thing right now is, and you guys know it's happening at Michigan State. to privatize the athletic program, which essentially means it would have a separate board and would be run really outside of the university. And, if that happens, my wife, Kathy, said, well, if it happens, then you're saying that you used a lot is going to come true. And that is, it used to be universities had football teams. Now football teams have universities.
Yeah.
And we don't want to see that happen. But next week, we got a guy that we've been trying to get. Guys, it's probably 18 months.
Yeah.
We've been trying to get this guy. Grannis Bell played running back in the late 80s for WVU, and now he's an NFL ref. And we had to get permission from the NFL. We had to actually interact with one of the vice presidents of the NFL to have Grannis get the permission to join us. And the way the NFL works, I don't know if Mickey and I talked about this, but Greg, you and I talked about it. They have a rule that NFL referees have a season when they cannot be interviewed or make public statements. And that season where they can runs, it runs from the day after the Super Bowl, which was last week, till May 15th. That's the only window they have where they can make public statements or they can be on shows like ours. And we can't ask Grannis any questions that would be perceived by the league as intrusive of NFL business. So we've got to talk to him about what it's like to be a referee, how he got in it, his certainly experience at WVU, why he picked WVU. He played under Don Nealon, of course, etc. But it's just going to be a lot of really exciting. Greg, on your show, did you ever interview a referee?
Not of this caliber, no. Had a few referees on, but not just from this level. So that'll be fun. Yeah, I mean, I'm anxious to talk to him. That'll be fun.
That's going to be fun, Mick. I've really been looking forward to this.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Sure am.
Yeah, we couldn't do it last year because they made it very clear that we missed the window. And of course, what I asked was, what are you talking about? What window? And at any rate, so yeah, we have to get them right about now. So as soon as that Super Bowl was over, we said, okay, Grannis. And so this week was too soon for him, but he'll be with us next week. So
that'll be awesome. Looking forward to that.
Right.
Well, guys, if nothing else, we want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Again, apologize for not having Tony on with us. We'll get that worked out and have him on a later date, I'm sure. Appreciate everybody tuning in to the Mountaineer Locker Room then and now, and here on StreamYard, and the voice of college football. We appreciate you. And Frank, Mickey, as always, great job of you guys. Always do your homework, and you can always tell you guys do, and I usually don't. So that's always pretty obvious.
Makes no difference.
You guys. Appreciate you guys, and we appreciate everybody for tuning in. We look forward to a great show next week with Grannis Bell. That'll be a lot of fun. So we hope you'll tune in next Wednesday night. So have a great evening, everybody. Good weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Take it easy, guys.